Reddit, what are your top "this wasn't in the job description" moments? I work for a comic book record store. On my first day, my boss told me there was a dead possum outside. I was handed a broom, a cardboard box, some packing tape and a plastic bag. I went outside and got it in my head that the possum might be playing dead and not actually dead at all. So I poked it a couple of times, pushed it into the plastic bag, put the plastic bag in a cardboard box, taped the box up and left it outside by the door. Someone later that day must have walked by and thought the box was a UPS delivery or something, cause they took it home. Suckers. Enjoy your possum. A few years ago, a local radio station had a thing they did. Have yourself a crappy little Christmas. They took little crap and put it in a plastic box, sealed it, wrapped it up like a present, and waited to see if people would steal it. If they handed it in somewhere suitable, the guys rescued it. If not, they let someone enjoy their stolen present. I once had to drop a computer that one of my co-workers had repaired off at an elderly lady's house. She lived alone, and when I got inside, it was pretty clear she was a hoarder. Anyway, when I told her the price for repair, I think it was $150 or something, she crapped her pants. Literally, she pooped in her pants. She must have been a Redditor. It's not very crazy. I currently stock things at a grocery store, and a couple of weeks ago, I was paged over the PA to the manager's office. Thinking, what did I do? I walk in, and my manager looks me dead in the eyes and says, "How do you spell squeegee?" As I was taken aback, it took me a moment to answer. After I spelled the word, I asked why he simply did not use either Google on the computer in front of him, or the autocorrect on the smartphone I knew he had. He replied, still stone-faced, "I figured you were my best bet. Prepare to get promoted." As a lifeguard at an amusement park, I had to swim around the deep end of the wave pool searching for and retrieving nuggets of some kid's poo. My boss called me into his office one day, with his daughter sitting at his desk, and he says she's got an online exam for an Excel class. Make sure she doesn't fail it. Updating resume. I'm a refrigeration HVAC service tech. Last summer a restaurant that we did work for burned down, but some of the building was still intact, including the walk-in cooler, freezer, and beer cooler. Before they were going to level the building, the owners wanted us to get the evaporator coils, the cooling fans hanging in the walk-ins, so they could save them since they weren't damaged. Well, the walk-ins hadn't been opened in over 2 months and none of the food or product had been taken out. So imagine rotten food, meat, sauces, etc. And take that smell times 1,000. I was going to do it by myself, but when I got there and opened the doors, the smell almost made me pass out and vomit instantly. So I propped open the doors and said I'd come back the next day to let the smell air out a little. So the next day me and my boss come out, put on full protective suits, boot covers, goggles, gloves, and regular dust masks. Was not enough protection. We got the beer cooler evap coil out just fine, but when it came to the combo cooler freezer door was at the back of the cooler. There was a 2-inch slimy muck of rotten food covering the entire floor, which made it slippery. Almost slipped a few times, which was really scary. We had to literally rub our upper lips with Vicks cream to help with the smell, but even then it was nearly unbearable. After we got the cooler coil out and went to open the freezer, filled with meat, we noped the frick out of there and said it was impossible due to the health hazards and such. We had to throw away our clothes and boots afterwards, it was that bad. Also, when we were done, we charged them for the time we took to go home and shower before returning to work. I had to wash my hands with a mixture of mostly bleach for the smell. Worst thing I've ever experienced in my life by a long shot. Sorry if there are any errors. Typing this from my phone. Good on your boss for going with you the second time at least. Carrying an inebriated teenager to the toilet, helping her to use the facilities, then dressing her again, followed by having to hold her upright while she was passed out for a couple of hours, occasionally jumping out of the way of her vomit splashes, that or holding back a sick teenager's hair while she vomited in the bath. I'm a teacher. That sounds exactly like the job description of the staff at my union, except the bath. We don't have a bath. Student teaching. I teach high school, but had to work at a K-5 school for part of it. Reading the kids a story and a first grader peed his pants. I looked around for an adult, and I realized the adult was me. First year teacher here, high school though, so slightly less soiled pants. That realization that you are the adult is one of the most satisfying but also terrifying feelings there is. When I worked for Best Buy, my supervisor asked if I could do an overnight and I agreed. I thought I would be doing the normal inventory stuff, but he asked me to paint the whole front wall of Best Buy. They usually get pros do it, but I guess they were trying to save money. I got stoned, ate pizza, listened to music and painted the crap out of that wall. They had to hire a pro the next day to repaint it. This actually happened yesterday. My job is giving guided tours in a science history museum. Yesterday I had to entertain 50 housewives for the afternoon by helping them make Christmas ornaments with dried flowers, all while being constantly hit on by those middle-aged women. I'm in my early 20s. It was pretty weird, but also quite fun. Older women can get frisky in groups like that. Be careful. I was in the Navy as an intelligence specialist. No one told me my main job would be to clean up after pilots and staple papers for them. Well, at least they gave me great recommendations when I got out. I'm an intelligence analyst currently deployed in Afghanistan, and I can empathetically say, I know that feeling. When I was 16 I worked at Burger King. This incredibly obese man comes into the restaurant and goes straight to the bathroom. No big deal, we just go about our business. Maybe 20 minutes later the fire department comes in. It turns out the guy had fallen in the bathroom and couldn't get back up. All of the employees were like, oh crap, whoops. We forgot he even went in there. So the firefighters come out and tell us we have a huge mess to clean up. When the guy fell he smeared feces everywhere. It was on the floor, toilet, walls, stall. The kicker was the guy made his wife go through the drive-thru and get him some freaking BK while he was still covered in crap. We could hear her gasping from the smell while she ordered. That's dedication right there. I was cashier at a store that sold honey, and one day they said, oh, come help us gather some bees for bee venom therapy. My job description was just sitting at the register, but they were short people that day, and even though I had no training in the bee yard, I said sure. So I go on to put on the beekeeper's outfit, and they say, oh, you don't need that, the bees won't sting. Frick that. I am putting on the goddamn outfit and mask. Motherfucking bees do sting. And I see you suckers complaining about a bee sting at least once a week, but then say, oh, well, I surprise them. I did this wrong, that wrong. It wasn't their fault, of course. It's motherfucking bees. It wasn't their fault. It was your fault for going out there in shorts and ATSHIRT. So I put on the outfit, and they hand me a glass mason jar as we walk out to the hives. They put the lid on the jar, with 2 tubes coming out the top. She puts the smoker on the hive, and opens it up, and then says, put 1 tube over top of the bees, then the other tube in your mouth, and suck. What? I asked her to repeat and demonstrate. I had to motherfucking sit there and suck up exactly 100 bees into a glass jar using the suction power of my mouth. There was a mesh net on the tube placed in my mouth so they wouldn't fly into my mouth or anything. Family dinner that night. My grandma asked me how work went. I answered I sucked up bees with my mouth. No further comments at the table that night. Professional bee sucker, registered bee psychologist, new bee vacuum, autocorrect turned bee into new. I had to climb through a window to deliver a pizza to an elderly woman with no legs. Here's the full story. Alright, here's the full story. I'll try to keep it short. I was delivering to her condo, and the woman's room is on the bottom floor. I knocked on the door once and no one came to the door. The second time I knocked I heard a faint yell from behind the door. Come in. The door is open. On a side note, I've encountered this type of open the door thing before, and I always feel like I'm going to get attacked when I do. Anyways, I tried the door and it was locked. So I shouted back that the door was locked, to which she replied, oh, well, look for the key. It's in the garden under the statue. Well, awesome. There were a couple statues in her little garden, so I began turning them over and looking under rocks. No key. I began to wonder why the heck she couldn't come to the door. After yelling back to her that there was no key, and her sounding very upset that she couldn't have her pizza, she instructed me to come over to her window and open it. As I opened the window and pulled back the curtains, I saw an elderly woman centered in a nest of pillows in the middle of the room. She had one of those flimsy plastic grabber arms and was trying to give me the money with that. She then asked me to put the pizza in the grabber arm. I was hesitant because I knew it would fall to the floor, but I did it anyways because she looked so desperate. Well, it fell to the floor and she looked even more hurt, and then looked at me with the kind of climb through the window please look. So I asked if I should climb through, and in the process of opening the window more I broke the hinges of the window, picked up the pizza, handed it to her, and walked out her front door. Tip was somewhere around $2 for all of that. Your total is $14.77. Here's $15, keep the change. I used to work on a fire crew for the US Forest Service. One day in between fire assignments, we had to clean up a campsite. Usually not a big deal, but at this site on this day, there were used tampons everywhere. I have no idea what kind of party was going down the night before. I had to cut a woman out of shape wear 4 sizes too small for her. She had tried it on, and after a half an hour I decided to check on her. It doesn't always pay to be nice. College students in dorms are the freaking worst. Those kids will make lakes of crap in the can and craft piles of crap in the shape of a man. They'll spread crap on the walls, leave crap all over the stalls, and draw you intricate crap pictures of balls. I've found crap in a sink, urinals filled with brown stink, and I never want to work as a custodian again. Alright doctor, deuce. The air conditioning broke at my work, so the boss asked me if I would mind climbing out onto the roof and resetting the switch on the unit. The building is only 3 stories with a tin roof, but it was enough that I probably would have been seriously injured if I had slipped. Oh, and also I work in an office, so I was in full business attire out on this roof, shuffling my way across to the aircon unit. We found out about 6 months later, and after having to do this 2 more times, that there is a reset switch inside the office breaker box. Fun times. As a clinical custodian, cleaning up unholy messes and bodily fluids was very much in the job description. I wasn't really prepared for patients thinking that custodian meant personal waiter, and having to humor them if the nurses were too busy to deal with it. However, I didn't really mind it, I guess, as it was a break from my usual routine. Though, for the life of me, I don't know where the logic comes from to see a guy in gloves running around, touching soiled linen, cleaning befouled bathrooms, and decide this is the man I want to send to fetch food drink for my sick family member. Just happened today. There was a fully nude man walking on my golf course. I thought it was other courses prank calling me, which we do from time to time. It was actual customers calling in. I drove out and sure as heck there was a naked 45-year-old man just casually strolling down the side of the fairway. It's okay. He was just playing through. My boss called me over one day so I could drive him to a city 2 hours away so he could buy a car. My car is a piece of crap and he knows it. It cannot actually go on the highway. I declined and he was such a dong about it, making me feel bad and like a shithead. I work in construction. Hopefully that can be past tense soon, cause ever since I denied him my car sacrifice, he's been an butt to me. Twist, your boss really appreciates all the hard work you do and knows your car is piece of crap. He was going to buy you a new car but you blew the opportunity. I work at a hotel front desk. My co-worker was once called to her room with the warning of bring extra towels and a mop please. She arrived to find that a very obese man had explosive diarrhea all over the bathroom floor. He was so large he was unaware he was hanging off the seat. Full stop. Oh, and yesterday I got the call that someone committed suicide in a room, so now I know how that procedure works. Lucky me. I worked as a front desk clerk for years. I never had a suicide, but we did have several weird things happen at our hotel. The guy who made swords in his room was pretty creepy. Then there was the time a toddler found a hypodermic needle full of H. His mom was slightly upset. And then there were all those goddamn tweakers. Frick those people. I work at a library. We get donations a lot. Books, movies and the like. It's my job to sort them out. However, it's not my job to sort through the 90s VHS tapes and magazines that you decided to share with the world after finally getting hooked up with the internet. Leave in the woods for exploring youngsters like everyone else. I don't want to touch your used cum rags. Carpooling with my boss to meetings, which consists of him driving and me in the passenger seat. Him looking at me and not at the road while talking. Me staring at the road since I figure someone should. Him changing lanes every 30 seconds for no reason, whilst taking his foot off the gas, then putting it back on again, then taking it off, then on, for the whole duration of what can be up to a 2-hour drive. Him holding his phone out with one hand on speaker so I can hear what the people on the line are saying, and asking me to take notes in a swervy bumpy car while he drives with one hand, still looking at me and not at the road. Him singing at the top of his lungs to Pearl Jam while I wish I was somewhere else. The digital gas pedal. Yes, I've known drivers who do that too. Full or nothing. I work at a corset shop during the summer and have a good relationship with my bosses. One day I was the only employee in the shop besides my boss and we were getting ready for a very busy day. Good weather equals more people coming to try stuff on by. We're checking the racks of corsets about 20 minutes before we open. I check one corset. Looks fine. Wait, what's moving inside it? Stink bugs. An entire freaking rack had been left beside a slightly open window and every dang corset on it had at least 2 or 3 bugs. We're talking probably around 100 corsets here. We tried to shake them off outside and get rid of them, but that just made the bugs more active. At some point I came up with the bright idea of drowning the still sleeping bugs in warm soapy water. Fine, but we only could scrounge up one bottle to do this with. I was running around drowning stink bugs in a empty dew bottle, emptying it out, and drowning more as inconspicuously as possible so none of the customers noticed. To top it off, we were so busy that day that I didn't get any lunch break. I did get a $50 bonus though. TLDR. Drowning stink bugs in a soda bottle at a corset shop. This is possibly the most obscure way to spend an afternoon. I award you 10 hipster points. The bloody fork incident. It was a brisk autumn day and I was working the dinner shift at a busy barbecue restaurant. Now, at this job, it was casual. There weren't servers and bussers. Those 2 jobs were done by the same person. Those were also the people that cleaned the restaurant after hours, including the restrooms. I had been working at the restaurant for 2 years at this point and I had gone through some strange things. Lady had a heart attack in the dining room, no problem. Both fryers blew up in flames, easy. But the bloody fork incident. It was time to close and I went through my bathroom check, starting with the men's. I finished cleaning there. Then I moved on to the women's. It was the stench that hit me the second that door swung open. The smell of flesh, the metallic taste and smell of blood. I thought, well, someone must have missed the tampon bag. Then I turned the corner. The toilet was covered down the sides in thick blood. The wall was dripping with it. There was a puddle on the floor, and in the middle of that puddle was a fork. A bloody fork. And on that fork was a thick conglomeration of clotted blood and pubic hair. Now, I didn't know how to react. Because even if it was to scratch an itch, our forks are so flimsy. I walked out. I couldn't handle it. I swore I would never clean a women's restroom again. And that was definitely not in the job description. TLDR. A woman attempted an abortion with a plastic fork in a barbecue restaurant's bathroom stall. I think this is going to be the new Doritos. I was hired to keep a website up to date and to maintain an in-house Windows server. Within the first month, they were trying to get me to program a Versa Pro programmable logic controller for large custom-built industrial machines. After about the 10th time I said I have a degree in internet journalism, I am not an electrical engineer, and I don't know ladder logic, they finally gave up and hired a subcontractor. Somehow they didn't understand the difference between good with computers and master of all things controlled by a microcontroller. Web designer here. No, I won't fix the Exchange server, but you're good with computers. I was hired as a graphic designer to create artwork for several large real estate chains. While working on this I got asked if I could go and take photos for a dildo making company. Had to take photos of dildos while naked girls held them, no insertion. Nix. Posted this before on a different thread topic, but my GM saw a Coleman cooler outside of our building with ropes hanging out of it. Sent me out to inspect. Opened it to find 4 dead rabbits with nooses tied around their necks and they had been physically beaten to death. Had to throw it all away in the trash compactor. Also had to tactically and stealthily hunt and trap a bird to get it out of the building. Successfully got it after 6 hours. But what a pain in the butt. Defusing a situation of redneck cheating women and their equally trashy husbands jumping on cars, trying to run one another over, and eventually setting a large patch of grass in the parking lot on fire. Have helped about 5 customers change a tire and 40-50 people just start their car over a 6-year time period. Cleaned crap out of the urinal and pee out of the Dyson blade hand dryer more than once. People sometimes leave a car for 24-36 hours sometimes. But we inspected after 2 days. Found a dead body in a car in the parking lot. Guy took way too many pills. Climbed in his back seat and locked himself in his car. OD'd and died. TLDR. Never a dull moment working at a movie theater. All of a sudden, I have no desire to work at a movie theater. My boss was drinking with a group of us at our restaurant. He told me to meet him in the fridge or I was fired. I told him we'll see how his wife feels about that. We never spoke of it again. Freaking pig. Target retail card collector and cashier. I rung people up and collected cards in the parking lot. One day they called me up and sent me to the women's bathroom with a mop and said go to work. It wasn't unusual to make the younger employees, I was 16, do the crappy work. Assuming someone threw up or had a poo-poo mishap, I went in expecting to clean a little mess. Nope. Either a small army of women loaded up on hormones or one large woman, not sure which, decided they want to have their period in not one stall, but 4 different stalls and bled all over the fricking place. Here I am, skinny little Indian kid with no proper protective gear cleaning up period crap. Frick that place. The first thing I learned at Target was to never ever get the training to be able to clean up biohazards, bodily fluids, chemicals, etc. They have cross-trained me all over the store, but never once have they successfully certified me for that. And your story strengthens my resolve. God no. At 16 I worked in a retail store, and it was stressed to me had to be nice to everyone, no matter how rude they were. No problem, I'm getting paid, after all. One day the skinny, sickly looking guy comes in and he's on one of those scooters, so he needs me to reach things for him. Keep in mind, he's roughly twice me age, so he wants me to find him Star Wars figurines in the toy section and keeps bragging about his collection. Then, he takes me over to women's underwear and told me his girlfriend was about my size and wanted to know what size I wore. He kept asking me which ones I thought were cute. It was just so, ugh. Minimum wage is not enough for that crap. I feel you here. I am a man and I've worked in customer service for about 10 years. It is appalling what kind of behavior companies will expect you to take from customers. What that guy was doing is sexual harassment and you should not have had to tolerate it. No one should have to tolerate